Hey guys, how are you doing? Happy Saturday. We are back for another episode of Interstage Window. Today, as always, I
Hey
have with
guys,
me
how are you?
Landon. Oh, hey!
Sorry.
You're
Uh-huh.
good. Wow.
Are
So,
we just
spoilers.
interrupting Karen?
Yeah, sure. I
I,
mean, you
you know,
should.
this is what
Okay.
happens when I have to watch the stream instead of be on it, is that the audio is on. I am so sorry. Anyway, get back to it. Keep going.
Okay, so anyways, y'all already know, I guess, but with me today is Landon, as usual. But we also have Kendra back. Say hi, Kendra.
Say hi, Kendra.
So if y'all
Sorry.
if y'all caught Thursday's stream, Kendra did a tarot reading for me, but she's never actually been on Interstage Window with us. So I'd like to actually start with Kendra. I know you introduced yourself just a couple of days ago, but if you could introduce yourself again, because there are people that just watch the Interstage Window stream and don't watch the Thursday stream.
Which is totally fine and understandable. And this time I can introduce myself in the context of roleplay. I am a multifaceted person. I'm not just one dimensional.
Are you,
Oh,
are you sure?
No, actually, I'm not. I'm pretty
That
sure that if
sounds really complicated.
heresy, heresy.
No, I'm actually just a one dimensional lady who
I
has
mean,
a toddler wanting bubbles in the rain.
I
So
am
that's nice.
I feel her on a level that I cannot express because I also want bubbles.
Oh my gosh.
Bubbles are great. I
If
love bubbles.
If I had some bubbles, I would blow some for you guys, but alas, I do not have bubbles in the house
Why
right
are
now.
you not prepared,
I mean, I
Karen?
didn't know. I didn't know Eliza was gonna want bubbles. Like, what am I supposed to do?
I mean, fair. Usually, right now at this time frame, she's with my mother-in-law hanging out, but my mother-in-law is not feeling well.
Oh
Oh
no.
no.
Well, let's.
She usually wakes up at 2. I'm like,
Oh,
well, if you're not up, then
yeah. Well, Let's get back to you. So tell everybody who you are, Kendra. Besides being multifaceted, who are you?
I'm multifaceted. I'm Eliza's mom. Is really my main function as a human right now. But I am also problematic ship role player exclusively, almost at this point.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Just because nothing else holds my interest
Yep.
quite so much anymore.
Yep, and that's what we're going to talk about today. So even though we do have a toddler in the background at the moment, this is probably going to be a. I mean, none of my streams are like really child friendly or anything like that. But this is even going to be even less so. So that's y'all's warning, and we'll do another one more specifically when we get to it. So thank you so much for introducing yourself, Kendra, and Landon. As always, we have Landon with us today as well.
Yes, your favorite omniscient voice from the beyond. Uh,
Yes.
Very excited to talk about problematic ships, given the
Hmm.
fact that I am not problematic at all and
Never.
have no clue what any of this is. I'm ready to be informed and educated.
Oh, fabulous. Well, we'll do a lot of that. Okay, well, I'll go ahead and get the game started. We kind of already introduced our topic, right? But we want to do favorite things first, right?
Yeah, tell me your favorite thing, Karen.
Okay. Okay, I'm just getting things switched over. Where's my mouse? There you are. Okay, so my favorite thing this week, as we know, it is Halloween season, right? It's Halloween season, and that means there's Halloween candy, this is the only time of the year I really eat candy. I don't think that's unusual. I think probably that's probably most people, right? But being the only time of the year that I eat candy, that's what we're gonna do. We're gonna talk about my favorite candy, which is almond joys, y'all.
Uh,
Almond joys are the best.
how?
Oh, hey, bye. Oh my
Also,
gosh.
how?
They are so
No,
good.
Karen,
Y'all.
you're
They're
wrong.
they're literally fake coconut covered in sugar, and I love
Mm,
sweet things, but it's
mm,
like a cavity waiting to happen. Also, hello,
mm,
Vi.
mm,
Oh,
mm,
you're eating your almond joy as you're
mm-hmm,
speaking to me. I
mm-hmm,
love it. Thank
mm-hmm.
you. Thank you for that.
So
I
all y'all
appreciate
that are triggered by people eating on stream, sorry, not sorry, but it's appropriate, so I'm gonna do it.
I feel
Mm.
personally attacked.
So So yeah, that's my favorite thing. We got a bunch of bags of Halloween candy because it's Halloween season, so we have it. And of course, my request was specifically make sure we get some Almond Joys. So we have
Of
Almond
course.
Joys in the house.
Well, I'm happy for you, I guess. Maybe I should just like ship you all of my Almond Joys. And like
Yeah,
this
please
is not
do.
me trying to candy shame you. Like, let's be clear. I try not to candy shame. But Almond Joys,
They're so good, y'all. They're so good. And
that
so if y'all are
they're
Almond
so-
Joy haters and you get Almond Joys in your, in your Halloween candy bags, you can give them to me. I'll eat them.
just have a macaroon. They're so much better.
Almond Joys.
All right, Kendra, what's your favorite thing?
My favorite thing, jumping off on the candy thing, is candy corn is in the store.
Oh, dear
And
Lord.
I love candy corn.
I like it too.
Get me out of this stream. What is this?
I love
I know, Eliza, you do love
That's
candy
right,
corn.
Eliza. You have good taste.
Where
She
did I
does.
take a wrong turn into Bad Candy Alley? I don't understand.
I don't know, probably like 5 years ago?
Probably.
7 maybe?
Yeah, somewhere around there.
Just really depends.
All right, candy corn. I can't. Yeah, keep going, Kendra.
I love
keep
candy
going.
corn. It's very nostalgic for
Yep.
me. And people say it tastes like wax, and
No.
I don't think that they ever like dipped their finger in wax from a candle as a kid. If they say that, because no,
You're right, and you
Super
should say it.
doesn't.
It doesn't taste like wax. It's good.
it does not taste like wax. It's very just young. It's warm.
Landington.
Hold
Oh
on,
my gosh,
sorry,
girl.
There's a whole thing happening. No, there's a whole thing happening in the chat that's telling me that I can name something, and that I tried to name it, and then it didn't want me to name it. And I was going to name a
Wow.
town after myself. Sorry.
Well, it
Distract.
won't. This game doesn't let me name towns, but I can totally name a pinata Landington if you would like.
It must be named that.
Okay, I'm gonna do that. We're gonna do that. I'm just looking to see what all I have to do left in this garden. But yes, I will name it Landington.
Anyway, non-waxy, waxy candy.
It's not waxy. You.
A little waxy.
It's not.
You.
Okay,
It's not.
y'all are crazy. Just gonna sit over here on the good candy mountain.
Well, what's
I mean, hey, I don't like almond joy.
you know
Okay,
what?
good.
You know what?
I just don't like nuts in my candy.
Oh, that's the issue.
So
that's
mounds.
the problem.
So mounds are okay then, right? There we go. Landington, the
because I
purple
also don't
pudgeon.
Oh,
Thank
good.
You know what?
I just don't like food or the process of food.
Oh, we've talked about this before. I know you have a lot of like very specific food things, right? So that's where this is coming from. This
Very
isn't really
specific.
this isn't really like a hate on almond joys at the moment.
No, I do hate almond joys. They're yucky, and they take up space in my trick-or-treat bag.
Yeah, but you know what? You think a lot of things are yucky that are perfectly normal foods that most people like. So that's all I'm trying to say. That's all I'm trying to say.
That is true.
I
There's
cannot
a lot
sign
of food
up.
that's disgusting.
I did not sign up for this, y'all.
Yes, you did. Yes, you did.
You
Hey,
did.
hey, you know what? We're talking about problematic ships today, right? So here's our problematic candy opinions.
Yes.
Ty! Oh my gosh, hey, it's been a while since I've seen you, Ty. So happy to see you again today. Okay, so what's your favorite thing, Landon? We've covered ours. If yours isn't candy related, you have to also tell us your favorite Halloween candy. It's the rules now, since that's what we both
It's not
did.
my favorite Halloween candy, but I was going to talk about candy.
Okay, yeah.
Great, good.
Just ironically, I figured that because we have a, plus 18 topic, I can talk about plus 18 candy and how it saved my life this week.
Okay, go for it.
Because
I need
for
to
those of you
know.
who do not know, I am suffering through a double ear infection
Mm-hmm.
because I'm an adult and I'm the only adult who gets those, apparently.
Adults get them. Okay, adults do get them. It's not just for kids. It's just kids get them more, I think.
It's mostly children, and then Landon. Who gets
Because you're a child at heart.
Aww.
well, am I, or am I just dead inside?
I
Trying to find the answer.
Don't ask a question you don't want the answer to.
Kendra, you already understand the stream format, which is just interrupt the fuck out of us. I love it because if you're never gonna get a word in edgewise if you don't.
I have learned to be very assertive because I have a 3-year-old.
You have to be. Hey, Lunar.
Yeah.
Hi. But yeah, not my favorite candy, but my favorite thing this week is edibles.
Okay.
Specifically a caramel edible that I had, and it was the only thing that allowed me to sleep through the pain of a double ear infection.
Oh my gosh.
So thank you to whomever many eons ago discovered that you could put marijuana into candy, because thank you. That's all I got for you.
I'm so sorry you had that ear infection. That sounds freaking awful. But I'm glad you're able to find some pain relief. What y'all don't know is like towards the beginning of this week, like I guess it was about Tuesday, I messaged Landon because she had kind of like disappeared from the internet, and I found out like that this was why. And so I was like, "Are you sure you even want to do the stream this weekend? Like, are you okay?" And she's like, "No. I got medicine. I'll be good. It'll be cleared up by then." I was like, "Are you sure it will be, or is this just like wishful thinking? It will be." Luckily, she's fine, obviously, and she's here.
Oh,
so
you forgot to tell the second half of that story, though.
Oh yeah.
You need to roast me properly.
You can roast yourself. Roast yourself.
And that's, I'm assuring her in DMs that I'm doing totally fine. I'm answering her from our DMs in a completely different group chat, which is how Kendra stumbled upon this week's topic.
Yeah, so we didn't originally like. So
I busted down the door
because
and I said, "Hey."
Yep. So because Landon did that, basically Kendra was like, "Oh, I want to be on," and I was like, okay, like, sure. We hadn't even really thought that far yet, but yeah, let's do it.
we were still definitely discussing a possible topics, and then I just talked about problematic chips.
Yeah,
was supposed to be in a DM as I'm assuring Karen that I'm perfectly healthy and in control of my own brain.
We hadn't even for sure chosen this was going to be the topic, but of course, after Kendra said that, well, it had to be.
It is now.
Oh, hey, Sasha. Oh, Sasha, I'm so glad you're here for this one. I'm so glad you're here for this one.
Lunar, I think you finally caught on. I am, in fact, the reason why we can't have nice things.
Yes.
That is part of my branding. It's dark goth girl wears pink, and also reason why we can't have nice things.
But we love you for that. It's great.
I think it depends on your definition of nice things, because personally, you give me a lot of nice things.
Oh.
Well, we're married in another life, so.
I mean, that is true. That's very true. I just really love the way that your dark and twisted mind comes up with fun ideas.
I don't know what you're talking about. I'm perfectly like vanilla the whole time.
Oh my gosh.
Whenever I write things, I don't write anything like problematic at all.
Landon, why are you here? I have to ask.
I'm being educated, that's why.
Oh, that's right. We're educating you about the problematic ships. I remember now.
Yeah. Also, I just need to warn the chat and then the VOD later on. I'm in a spicy mood, so just be prepared. That's why the sarcasm. It's just a thing that's happening.
Well, you were sick today, so we'll give you a pass, right?
Thanks. Yeah, that's
spicy topic.
It is.
You should have a pass anyway.
That's true.
So, all right. Shall we get on with the stuff then?
Yes, let's get on with the stuff.
Okay, thank you. Because I'm such an angel and I don't know anything. What is the definition of problematic?
Oh my gosh. I feel like it's anything that you potentially don't support, like in reality. That's kind of the things that get labeled problematic, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I think so. So just everything.
Yeah, I mean everything pretty much. I mean, really, it could be anything and everything. Kendra, how would you like explain what problematic is for somebody who's like maybe not very online and doesn't really know what that means?
Say it means something that you would think about in the context of shipping. It's something that you would find in a 1980s trashy romance novel that would make you kind of like wrinkle your nose a little bit
Oh,
the
okay.
first time you read it.
Oh,
Okay. Okay. um,
Very, Highlander abducts the willful governess, but oh no, they fall in love.
gasp.
Oh no! Her ample cleavage is spilling out of the bodice. Oh!
So I feel like we're giving very real definitions, and I think that like this word has been watered down over
Yeah.
time to like everything is problematic. But I do
Yes.
think that originally it was a little bit more serious than that, and it looks like Sasha's basically saying the same thing. Yeah, problematic was originally a term for media critique, right? And when we're talking, and so I'll expand on that, we're talking about media like that's intended to go out to a mass audience and actually has like a lot of influence. Like spoilers, your role play with your friend doesn't have no influence on nothing, right? Except for you and your friend.
uh,
Excuse you.
I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, but Kendra and I have changed the world with some of our wonderful plots.
Yeah,
Don't
are you
snap.
kidding me?
So
I'm the whole reason why biker gangs are popular on Wattpad.
oh wow. Well, but yeah, I think like the original definition of problematic was for things like blackface. I think is a good example of like we don't do that in media because of the history of it, because of what it means for its implications on how people actually see and relate to the real black people in their lives, right? So I do think that what we were saying originally is quite is a lot more how it's used now, but that wasn't always the case. Like it did used to be for more serious things.
I think like much like the way many things happen and many trends, and I hate to say problematic is a trend, but I think it could be related to that way, that it is this something that was industry was referring to mass media and everything like that, and because it caught on and it almost became a buzzword, it got watered down. The meaning became less and less, and now everyone uses problematic, frankly, in their day-to-day life.
Yeah.
And because of that, the definition has obviously loosened.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it has for sure.
Purity culture dog whistles.
Yeah. Oh, exactly, Sasha.
Yeah.
Is that problematic is a word that has been watered down like queer.
Yep.
Or, I mean, there's 1,000 other words that do the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
That it's like, oh, this word used to mean something, and now we've said it so many times, and so many people say it, that it holds no meaning, or the meaning it does hold is
totally
subjective.
different. It's totally different
Yeah.
now. And that's, to a lot of extent, that's how language works. So that's not necessarily always a bad thing. Sometimes that's just a perfectly natural process. But when it comes to the internet, I feel like that process gets accelerated in such a way that it can be really difficult to then have a conversation, because you don't know if the person you're talking to is using last year's definition of a word. And when I say last year, I literally mean as quickly as like a year ago. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it is important that we explain all the different ways that we could be talking about the word problematic, because even if you look back as little as 5 years ago, its definition was totally different.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think, I mean, when I first came up with this idea and trying to break down what problematic meant, especially when it was referring to ships, I came up to like 3 different levels almost of what problematic could be. And the biggest level, like the top tier level, is being what is really problematic at its original intent.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And then the 2 other levels being what, socially we might consider problematic.
Mm-hmm.
And then what, antis, or what you could break down as considering problematic for anyone, because it's subjective at that point.
Yeah. Yeah, and just because
Um,
something is problematic for you and you don't want to be exposed to it doesn't mean it is for everybody, right? And that's like a
yeah,
whole other struggle in regards to problematic stuff, which I'm sure that we'll get into.
absolutely. But I think also it's important to, like, if you're going to break down problematic, I think that the word also taboo needs to be like tied in there,
Yeah.
because a lot of what is problematic is also considered what is taboo.
Mm-hmm.
And if it's taboo, then there's a natural curiosity to explore it, especially the mass like idea of problematic, not the original idea of problematic.
Mm.
Um, so I think it's also important to keep that in mind as well.
Mm-hmm. Can you expand just a little bit more on that, just to make sure that we're being clear on like what that means?
Like taboo.
Yeah, like how like when you say taboo, like then what really does that mean for you?
So taboo for me at least means like society has decided that this thing is not okay, dangerous, is against the norm, um, that it is not, that it's basically not normal,
Mm-hmm.
or the ideal. And therefore, from different levels, you kind of have, and it's kind of like something you don't want to talk about. So, in some circumstances, like sex is considered taboo in American culture,
Yeah.
although sexualization of women is not considered taboo. So, like, there's a balance there. But like talking about sex with family members, friends, even like your significant other can be considered something that isn't normal and therefore makes us socially uncomfortable.
Yeah, and I think defining it as something not normal is very appropriate because some taboos exist for the reason that the thing that you're talking about is really truly dangerous, and I think some taboos exist for like they're not really dangerous, but we have been made to believe by our society that they are dangerous for some other reason.
Yes.
If that makes sense. So there's definitely taboos that are like that's taboo because it's actually dangerous and you shouldn't do that. And then there's taboos where like I think we should really be thinking about, is this thing actually harmful or not?
Yes. And I think Sasha just said something along those lines that is in the chat that yes, this makes me that seeing that this makes me uncomfortable and this introduces and causes harm are two separate things that exist on a spectrum.
Yeah, absolutely. And because, we're emotional creatures, sometimes those things feel the same and we struggle to differentiate those, I think.
Absolutely. And if you don't have the introspection or the practice to look into it,
Mhm.
then I think it's also way harder.
Oh yeah.
You don't have the tools in your toolbox to sit there and be like, is this situation making me feel nervous and not normal and clenched up because I am uncomfortable or because it's actually causing me harm? This
Yeah.
feels the same.
Yeah, it feels the same. Absolutely.
And so I think that's also why mass, social, like people, society, that's the word I was looking for. That's why we took the word problematic and formed it into what it was, is because there was that blurring of that line.
Yeah.
And that anything that belonged on that spectrum is then considered problematic, whether it makes it uncomfortable or whether it actually does harm.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I think that probably is true. Yeah. And then of course the internet comes along and accelerates it incredibly quickly.
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Oh, Ty. Yes.
Yeah,
Ty
Ty.
is making a great point.
Yeah, triggered is another example of a word that's gone through a very similar and parallel transformation for basically the same reasons, because it's very, very hard to figure out when something is actually bad versus when it's just making you personally uncomfortable.
It's taught that if you're personally uncomfortable, then it's bad.
Yeah, well,
Like, we've been taught that by society, even though it's not necessarily true.
No.
Because then that lesson also teaches us that if it's not making me uncomfortable, then it's not bad, and that is also
Oh,
false.
that's also very much not true. Oh,
That is a
hey,
lie.
Warcraft, it has been for freaking ever since I've seen you. How are you doing? All right, so then let's. So
My
I feel
pitch to bring back
so I-
Squick.
Oh my gosh, yeah. I still use it. But it's not in
Me
fashion.
too.
It's not in fashion anymore. But I still use that word absolutely. I think squick is a great word. It doesn't have all that weight, and it's just about you personally, you know. So yeah, I love it.
I don't know why this is a personal tangent. I don't know why, but my brain has taken the word squick and has just saved it as squeak.
Squeak.
And so whenever I go, and I think this happened on stream a couple weeks ago, but whenever I go to say squick, squeak just comes out, and I'm just like, God damn it!
Well, that's because it's something that makes your brain squeak when the brakes are pumped.
Oh my gosh,
Yeah,
it does
Ooh,
though.
No.
but you would think
Like,
I'd
ooh,
squeak
not
if I
that
was
topic.
excited.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
Anyway.
Okay, so I feel like we've kind of got a good handle on what we're talking about when we talk about problematic. So how then do we relate it to shipping? So I think
Should we discuss different kinds of dynamics?
yeah, sure. Yeah, what's a good example then?
Okay, so like I said, when I was coming to this topic, I kind of split into 3 different levels. So I
Yeah.
figured we could go through the levels and
Yeah.
then discuss that way.
Yeah, sure.
So the one that I named baby taboo, aka it could hurt anyone's feelings at any point in time and therefore it's considered problematic. Have me roll my eyes as I'm saying that. Is things like dubcon or like or power dynamics,
Mhm.
boss secretary,
Mhm.
doctor
Yeah.
patient, all of these. I think that there are some more extreme versions of power dynamics depending on what else you throw into there.
Mhm.
But for the most part, people love a good power dynamic.
Oh yeah, for
You
sure.
gotta do the taboo problematic ship bingo and just fill your card out with
Yeah,
them.
seriously, if you've done this in an RP, tell us when you get bingo. I love that idea.
Oh yeah, sure. Let's play that. Once
Bingo.
bingo for sure. I think that when it comes to like this type of ship, like something where you're playing with power dynamics in one way or the other, that is like the most common freaking interest that people have. And so I really with this one, like you see it so commonly, and I think it's partly because in our world there's really no such thing as a relationship that doesn't have some kind of power dynamic. Now, hopefully, your real life relationships, the power dynamic is minimal and doesn't actually affect much of anything. But like our society's arranged very hierarchically, and people are not equal as much as, you know, I would love to live in a world where they are, and eventually hopefully we'll get to that world, but that's not today's world, right? So every relationship that you have, there's a little bit of a power dynamic there. So I think it's perfectly natural to take that and in a fictional setting, you know, expand it and kind of like exemplify it and make it, you know, the focus.
Absolutely. And I think that it's something that, because it's taboo, we inherently want to like discover. But also it's something that is constantly shown around us in media.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the other thing too. If you don't want to play it with your own RP bingo, you can every single one of these that I'm saying, you could sit there and be like, oh, I've seen that on Grey's Anatomy.
Yeah.
Or I've seen that on Vampire Diaries, or X, Y, and Z. Because these are huge common tropes that happen within media all around us all the time.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Another one that I wanted to throw in here was jealousy. Any form of like super possessive jealousy is problematic, can be problematic for some people.
Oh yeah. I mean, you don't want to experience too much jealousy in real life for sure. Like that's really frustrating.
Absolutely. And especially in our like idealized life, right? When we're thinking of like what is the perfect life, we don't want to see jealousy in that relationship, but people throw jealousy into plots all the time without even thinking about it, being like, how can I spice up this ship? Let's make him jealous or her jealous.
What are you going to write about if you do not have a conflict?
I mean, that's a good point. Yeah, what are you going to write about if there's no conflict? And jealousy is a very, very easy one.
Absolutely. But like we can also talk about that, and that's kind of what I was going to say. Drama is like any sort of relationship drama can be deemed as problematic. Which sounds so silly and so stupid, especially when we take what problematic is supposed to be. But like you don't want that in your idealized life. In the perfect, healthy relationship, there wouldn't be any drama. And yet, conflict is what we write, and therefore it's going to happen in relationships.
Yeah, but I think that those all of those things, they're really good examples of kind of like a very low level, low tier, something that would be considered problematic is still stuff like that. And whether it should be called problematic or not, I think is a whole other thing. But you do see people online saying this stuff is problematic and you shouldn't write it.
Yeah.
You do see that. So, I mean, it's worth acknowledging.
And then a part of me just dies inside.
Yeah, well, I think so we can go ahead and say this now. I think we're going to do a whole episode on aunties. We've already got a lot of it planned. Yeah. So just FYI guys, this is another episode where we're going to talk about a lot of the stuff that has to do with aunties, but we still have the whole episode where we're going to go into that a little bit deeper planned. So get ready for that. Hopefully sometime before the end of the year.
Okay. So moving on to the next level.
Yeah.
Is things that I said, pretty yikes for some people.
Mm-hmm.
And things like age gaps fall into this.
Mm-hmm.
Especially, I mean, when I'm thinking age gaps, I'm thinking like between 5 and 10 years, because I think any older than that, especially depending on how old the characters are, can go into like even a higher level of problematic, quote unquote.
Mm-hmm.
This is my soapbox for problematic shit.
Yes. Go for it.
My parents are 11 years apart.
Yeah.
They have been married since, before I was born, still are happily married. And I never understood what the issue with age gaps was. Like, in real life, I can see, like, okay, an 18-year-old and a 50-year-old, that I can see the issues there with stages of life.
Yeah, that's kind of weird. It makes me wonder, like, what else is going on there, right?
Right, yes. But, again, that's more than 5 to 10 years of a difference.
Yeah.
When it's, like, extreme, I can understand a little more. But people say, ooh, any more than 5 years. No. I get so confused.
Yeah.
I'm like, wait, what?
Yeah.
I don't understand it either. My parents were 10 years apart. I think that also the older you get, the less like age shit matters.
Yeah, for real.
I understand it to an extent. I mean, and this is me personally. When I wouldn't want to be with anyone who can't drink at a bar. Like, personally, because it's part of my lifestyle to want to like go to my favorite bar and have a dessert martini, and if you're not allowed inside the bar, then I just don't think that this is going to personally work out for us.
Mm-hmm.
But I also recognize that's my own personal taste, and there are some people who could be interested in someone who's 20 when they're 26.
Yep.
Or whatever.
Yeah.
And it's not a bad thing.
I think trying to take age gaps as like just a number, which a lot of people do describe it that way and take it that way. I don't think that that's really what like a lot of problematic age gap ships are getting at, right?
Yes.
Like what I think the appeal of that type of ship really is for the younger person in the ship, or the younger character in the ship, having somebody take care of them, right?
It's
like
the power dynamic.
Yes.
Yeah, like that's really what the appeal is. Now, would you really want that in real life? Probably not, because if you've got somebody that's willing to do that, like there's all kinds of like other things that are going on, right? But in fiction, like that's such a fun fantasy, right? In fiction, that's such a fun fantasy to be like, oh, this person like cares about me and they want to take care of me, because let's be real, the rest of the world doesn't. Most of the world's is getting on just fine regardless of how you're doing.
Yep.
So it's a nice little fantasy there. Yeah, Sasha, exactly. Most people really do not care about this stuff. Like when we're talking about problematic ships, a lot of what we're talking about is like it's online. Like this is all like people that are way too online, that spend way too much time thinking about things that are not as relevant as they think they are.
The key word here is fantasy.
Yeah.
And people not having a strong connection or a strong distinction between out of character and in character.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's a lot of it. But yeah, that's a really good example. That's a good example, Landon. I think of something that on the surface, a lot of people are like, yeah, that's problematic if there's like a super crazy age gap. Like, you know, they'll say things like, Edward was 1,000 years older than Bella. Oh my gosh,
Dear,
that's
dear
problematic.
Lord. But like
Right.
people won't even argue that too. It's so like that's the other thing too is when you throw like supernatural age gaps in there, people like are just so willing to forget
Yeah,
and just being like, okay,
yeah.
whatever.
Sorry, the age gap was the problem?
No, yeah, the age gap, not the stalking
Yeah,
or the
everything
fact
else,
that he's
everything
like,
else was baby taboo. It's the age gap that was like
yeah.
in the yikes category.
Right, it's the age gap there. It's not that, you know, in the, you know, towards the end once they actually get married, Edward totally stops, you know, respecting her. It's not, you know, the
Oh
fact that he
yeah.
stalks her in the
Oh,
first book. Like, it's none of that.
that he basically has to he basically has to blackmail her into marrying him. Not blackmail, but like just
Close
pay her
enough.
basically in sex.
Right,
Who
because
knows?
all she wants to do is bone down. But he
And
doesn't
he's
want
like,
that.
marry me.
Right.
Oh my God,
Positive
Ty.
him, but
Ah!
gosh.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah, the
well,
romantically bonding with the baby.
okay. But
Well,
Stephanie
That gets
Meyer
me.
has so many. Actually, I just watched a YouTube video about this. Stephanie Meyer's um, minor and then adult relationships are fascinating
oh my God.
because there are several of them.
There are.
One being the
Hmm.
baby and Jacob, several being in one of her alternate other books called The Host. And it's just like, okay, this is interesting. Actually, this is an interesting habit that you're developing, Stephanie.
She's into it. You know, that's what she's into. And I think that's a good segue into like kind of the top tier ones, right? Because if we're talking about like an actual child and adult, like that is something that I think a lot of people wouldn't even be interested in seeing in their fiction. Not everybody, obviously, because Twilight was wildly popular and it had that. But even Twilight stans made fun of the whole like Jacob and Esme thing. So,
Well, and like, and I almost have it's so interesting because I also sit there and I go, there's so much young adult fiction in which all of the characters, unless supernatural, are underage.
yeah.
And yet there is so much sex, drugs, and partying happening. That it is like, and I know that we don't treat them like high schoolers, and there's a whole problem within book publishing with this. But it is this fascinating thing where it's like, oh, if all the characters are below the age of consent, it's fine. It can be a fuck fest.
Hmm.
If there's even one character, however, unless they're supernatural, above the age of 18, then we can't have it.
That
And even
magical
at
18.
then we can't have it.
That magical 18 barrier, right? Because you know when you wake
Yeah.
up in the morning on your 18th birthday, everything changes in your brain and body, and you
Yeah.
are now an adult. You've
Yep.
emerged from your cocoon. Okay, but wait, let's
Didn't
be
you
real.
have the ceremony?
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. Okay, but let's
Actually,
be
no,
real.
I very quickly wanted to add one other like thing that is
Wait,
excluded
I have
in that.
I have
Oh,
something
go,
I want to
go.
say first. So,
Okay, go.
but before we get to that, Landon, I just want to like let's admit the reality that when you read those young adult fictions, you're just jealous that these kids were way cooler in high school than you were.
Yep, that's it. That's what I was hoping for. 26-year-old me is just like, damn, I wish I had Bella's life.
Okay, you can go now. I had to get that in there.
Illusion of this like huge ew no to any sort of like age gap between someone who is under the age of 18, however older than the age of consent, and someone who is older than 18
Hmm.
is student teacher relationships.
Oh, yeah.
Because for whatever reason, every person loves student teacher relationships. And I'm not every person, but like a lot of
It's very popular. It's
our fiction.
It is very
And
it's
popular.
very popular.
And I'm here for it, right? I like it. I'm not
Yeah.
gonna lie, it's one of my tropes. However,
Are we
sit there
gonna
and be
like out ourselves?
why
to
is
the
this
internet?
okay
Yes.
and it not okay if one of them isn't a teacher? Because if one of them isn't a teacher, then it's like less problematic than them being a teacher. 'Cause
It feels like that, right? It feels like that the court of the internet feels that way, huh?
it just, I just the yeah, there's just so much like hypocrisy
Yeah.
in this idea of being like, you can write some things, but you can't write others. And it's like, I don't understand.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah,
yeah.
student teacher is definitely popular. I don't hate it. And yeah, I think we should all out ourselves. Like, we're talking
Oh,
about problematic ships because we all write problematic ships and we're
yeah.
here for it. And yeah, I guess we should make that clear. So if you listened this far and you were expecting us to get on to how awful people are that do problematic ships, sorry, it's not happening. And I just realized
Wrong group of people.
I forgot to turn on my background light, so I'm actually going to do that for a second. So sorry,
Okay.
guys.
Well, then I'll talk about some other like real, what would be considered problematic um, if we were talking still at a media level
Yeah.
where it wasn't overused. Ships that have like non-con.
Okay.
Um, there's a lot of that could be considered. By the way, when we're talking about this, we're not saying don't write these. We're just
Mhm.
saying that this could be considered that.
Mhm.
It's probably
Incest.
going to be harder to find a partner that you haven't written with before to write these
Yes,
things.
Yeah.
that's a great way of putting it. Yes.
Mhm.
Incest ships.
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I had another one. I lost it though.
Do I say bingo now or later?
Oh yeah, no,
Bingo.
I've already hit bingo at this point. Any sort of any sort of like slave sort of stuff.
Yeah.
Whether that be kidnapping and then made to be a house, like kidnapping and then made to work for this person
Mhm.
and then develop Stockholm syndrome, or that be, that actual real dynamic of slave and owner.
Mhm. You see
That
this in
would
a
be
lot of like BDSM fiction, I would say.
absolutely, yeah. So all of those things could be considered like the top tier. Most people would consider that problematic, and unfortunately would consider you problematic because of that, because we apparently connect what our fantasies are to who we are in real life, which is in itself stupid, but that's
Yeah.
fine.
We're going to get to that in a second though. It's after we kind of define all this stuff, but yeah, I would say that those are the kind of those kind of top tier things are stuff where no one's going to think you're weird for being uncomfortable with that stuff. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like I feel like that's kind of the top tier problematic things that you're mentioning. What separates them is if you are uncomfortable with those things, no one's going to be like, that's kind of weird. I don't understand why that's uncomfortable for you. Like it's perfectly understandable why that's uncomfortable for you, right?
Yes. And I think it's okay to be uncomfortable by it, but it's also okay to want to explore it.
Yeah.
And I think that that's also what we're going to be talking about here and wanting to focus on, is that we are not going to be shitting on people who like problematic things,
Mhm.
and we are certainly not going to sit there and say don't do it, because this is fiction and you get to do what you want.
Yep.
In a safe space where you can explore these topics without harming
Yeah.
anyone.
Yeah.
And I think that this would be a good time to transition into why people do it. We've kind of
Okay.
been hinting on it and dancing on that, but unless you had specific dynamics or things that you wanted to level out or discuss a little bit more.
No, I feel like at this point people probably get it, like what we're talking about when we say problematic ships, like what we mean. So now that we've established all that, yeah, let's get into like why do people do it, especially in the context of role play? Why are people interested in this stuff?
Yeah.
Whoever wants to go first, and I'll build on that.
I have a healthy relationship in my real life. When I roleplay, it is for fantasy and exploring dynamics that I do not have.
Mm-hmm.
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 So,
Um,
like, my husband's great. He's, not related to me. He's not, uh, 20 years older than me. He's not, all of those things that we listed, not him.
Mm-hmm.
But when I write, I don't usually write things like the characters in these relationships are happy. These relationships are not healthy.
Mm-hmm.
It's, for me, if there's not conflict, if I'm not exploring something that I don't get to see, I don't get any contact with in the real world, I lose interest very quickly because I already have it.
Yeah, I think that absolutely applies to me as well. You know, like I keep my real life very boring, on purpose. I mean,
Yes.
y'all that saw me get my tarot reading on Thursday, or if you watched the VOD, you saw this as well. Um, like I keep my real life as boring as I possibly can. And that's very important to me, right? That's very important to me for my mental health and things like that. And then, you know, role play is the place to explore all of these other things, right? And it's not that I dislike role playing healthy relationships. I've done it before and there are plenty that I like to do, but it's not my main focus or area of interest because then it becomes quite a lot like real life and it's just not as fun. Is the truth. It's just not as fun. Um and the other point that I would like to say when it comes to why is at the end of the day, what really appeals to me about role play in a lot of ways is writing and crafting those stories. And there's no story if there's no conflict. So, you know, having a problematic ship is a very easy and simple conflict to introduce and overcome in the story or resolve in some way in the story. And so to me, like that's what's fun. If you have like a perfectly healthy ship, then you have to have external conflict, which is fine. Like you can do that, but it's not as easy, right? And it's harder to keep it interesting. A problematic ship is very easy to set up and to keep interesting for a lot longer.
There's only so much mileage that you can get out of a healthy ship in role play,
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah,
which is different than a healthy ship in fiction.
yeah.
Well, and it's not. I wouldn't even argue it's that different because I don't think that there are such things as healthy ships in fiction. Because I think that even on that, at every level, they have some sort of like something that could be considered problematic.
If you
I'm
look
going
hard
to
enough,
raise you.
if you look hard enough, you can find it, right? Is that
Yeah,
basically what you're
I
trying
mean,
to say?
absolutely.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I mean, if
kind
you
of.
look hard
And
enough
like
at anybody's
jealousy.
relationship.
yeah,
Yeah. But I think that that's also the point, right? That is also the
Mm-hmm.
point, is that everything can be. So stop focusing on it.
hmm.
Yeah.
um, for me,
So glad you're
I
back, Ty.
miss you. I do not live a boring life. I can finally be in a place to say that. I have a lot going on, and for me, writing characters and RPing is kind of the equivalent of like people who go and do demolition for stress relief. Um,
Oh.
where you just
I
like
see that.
smash plates or smash countertops or just like take a sledgehammer to like a shed. There are some people who like just do that for stress relief, and I do the same thing except metaphorically to fictional characters.
Mm.
And the best sledgehammers are typically problematic stuff.
They are.
And it's because I have a lot going on in my life. Good for the most part. I have healthy relationships, and I don't have these kinds of stuff going on in my life. But I feel still the need to smash plates, and this is how I can do it.
hmm Well, there
So
is a such thing as positive stress, right? Like they talk about how,
well,
like, buying a house, for example, is very stressful, even though, like, you're buying a house and it's a joyous occasion, but it is still incredibly stressful, right?
yeah, that's
So,
something
so
to
there's a
think
good, there's a,
Well,
right.
just at me next time. Just at me next time. It's fine.
like, oh, we could just play bingo of what's going on in Landon's life. Let's just that, oh,
You
that
should
one.
have met
Okay.
you should have met 22-year-old Sasha. You know what, Sasha? I'm very glad I didn't meet 22-year-old Sasha. I'm not sure. I'm not sure about that. I'm glad I met Sasha later.
Yeah, Sasha, yeah, I'm not sure.
I love you
I
so much.
I love you. Sasha, I'm your like number one biggest fan, and I just fangirl about you. You can ask Karen. Um,
It's true.
however, I am not sure.
We all do.
22, 26-year-old Landon, and any Landon, is very particular about the people she has in her life, and I'm not sure that 22-year-old Sasha. I'm not sure how that would have looked. We'll see. I'd love to hear about 22-year-old Sasha,
Yeah.
A
but
lot
yeah.
less picky. As
Oh
I've
my
grown, I've
gosh.
gotten so much more particular.
I have too. I've gotten so picky as I've gotten old. Oh my gosh. I see why old people are so crotchety now, because if this process keeps going, I'm going to be there when I'm like,
You're gonna
60 years old.
I'm already there.
I I just maybe I'm still getting there, but I just don't have time. I mean, I'm picky, but it's because I literally have 8 hours at the end of the night, and most of it's dedicated to sleep. So I don't have the
That's fair.
time to be able to not be picky. It'd be
Yeah.
interesting to see what my life would be like if I had the time, though.
Yeah.
Anyway, but that's why I do it, and I think that is I like to write problematic ships because I like to just fuck imaginary people up.
Yep.
Um,
Good pause.
I think
thank you. I also like to do that.
I think for me, like when I was younger, that's probably like why I was originally doing that kind of thing. You know what I mean? Um, because it is very cathartic, and it's a legitimate form of therapy. Art therapy is like super legit, right? Writing out or drawing your trauma in a safe space to kind of help you reorient your mind towards that trauma is something that like legit real therapists will recommend that you do and try. Of course, just like any form of therapy, it's not going to work for everybody. So, I'm not a therapist. I'm not trying to give out therapy advice, but I do think that that's legit, and it probably helped you because it's like a legit therapy session. It probably still helps even if you're raging about very different things now.
Yeah, and I think that was one of the things that I wrote down as well as why people do it is because also being able to control trauma
Yeah.
that they've lived through. So like being part of that therapy process is also important because if they have lived through a trauma and being able to write about it and control it changes the narrative.
Yeah.
And people really like that power. And being able to do that they can access that and use this as a form of therapy too. So that's another reason why people write the way they do
Mm-hmm.
and write problematic ships.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I love that I can hear
Um,
the air quotes in your voice.
Things like I keep doing them physically, and then I'm like, no one can see me, Landon.
The biggest shame.
don't don't worry, Landon. If you want to, only if you want to, we're gonna get to a
stream is nobody can see Landon's
And no one can see my beautiful face. Oh, but spoilers.
Yeah, we're gonna get to a point where where you'll be able to. My setup has limited us at this up to now, but hopefully Landon will actually be making some face appearances here in the near future. We'll see. Only if she wants to, though. Only if she wants to. It's not required.
Do I want an audience? Fuck yeah, I want an audience.
That's the silliest thing you have
Sasha
ever.
wants to talk about re-traumatizing ourselves. Do we want to talk about that?
Yeah, let's talk about that. So well, let me just start. When I see I see
Kendall, this one's yours.
Oh, you're good. I see like a lot of people online saying, "Oh, you shouldn't role play this stuff. You shouldn't write this stuff because you're re-traumatizing yourself." And I do think that there's a legitimate thing where people do re-traumatize themselves, where they have a awful relationship or an awful experience in real life, and then they go through in their life and do things to try to recreate that awful experience. Like, I mean, we all have that friend, right, that keeps going for that same type of guy that keeps fucking her over and over again, and it's like 3 or 4 different guys, but they're all doing the same thing, right?
Cool.
So we've all known that person or been that person, right? So then I think what happens is people get confused and they think that you can re-traumatize yourself through fiction, and I think that's a lot harder to do. Like, I've never written something that was similar to my real life and like gotten re-traumatized over it. I mean, I'm sure it can happen, and if it can happen, role play is the place, right? Because it is a very intimate activity that you're doing with someone else. You're not doing it by yourself. But I just don't think that's really a thing in the way that a lot of people online say it is. So that's my main take on the re-traumatizing thing.
I agree that I don't think you can re-traumatize yourself. I think that there is a point in time where it is possibly be stuck, or not stuck, but that you're not moving forward in your healing
That's
and
true.
you're obsessing over it.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and people can be there, but I don't think that that in itself is re-traumatizing. I think that in itself is just obsessing over your trauma and healing from your
Mm-hmm.
trauma.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think it is possible to sit there and you continue, it's just like you continue to put yourself in bad relationships, you can continue to set yourself up so that you are writing the same story over and over again, trying to re-emanate all of the feelings, and that not being the release that you want it to be. And
Mm.
then being upset and even more, I don't want to say traumatized, but having an emotional fallout because it isn't that release that you are chasing.
Mm.
I think psychologically that is completely possible. However,
Mm-hmm.
I think it is a lot rarer, a lot harder, and that is not what most people are doing when they are taking control of their journey and their history and their trauma and wanting to write about it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I think that's really valid. Like, and Sasha's making some very similar points here. Writing about something is you being the actor, and be re-traumatized. Being re-traumatized is like you getting acted upon, right? So
Yeah.
if you're in a situation where you're doing like what you're describing, where you're kind of like, you know, doing the same thing in your art, whatever your art is, like role play in our case, over and over and over again, and you're not getting that same release anymore. Like that's not the same thing as re-traumatizing. Maybe it does mean that you need to stop role playing that scenario, but it's not re-traumatizing. Like that's not what you're doing. And hopefully if you have trauma in your life and you're at a point where you can go, get help for it, hopefully you have a therapist that can help you recognize what coping mechanisms you have that are actually helping versus coping mechanisms you have that are not
Yeah.
helping, right? But I would just say that you're using a coping mechanism that's not helping anymore in that case.
Exactly. And we can definitely you can definitely get stuck on that and not know that, especially if you stumbled upon writing about your trauma on your own.
Yeah. Oh
Because
yeah.
I think a lot of our peers probably did come from that. They did sit there and be like, "Oh, I want to try this thing that happened," like, and not even disclose that it happened to them, but that they want to try it because they have that urge
Mm-hmm.
to release these emotions. So I think that is that they might not have the tools or the people telling them how to get out of that situation.
Mm-hmm.
But like I said, I think that is completely rare, and it's not re-traumatizing. It's just it could look like it is making them, for lack of a better word, worse because of the lack of coping mechanisms and the spiral that they were in, that they would be in anyway because they're healing from the process.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah,
So
This,
for
to
sure.
me, sounds like some people on the internet have got together and are policing the way trauma survivors
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
engage in
Well,
their therapy, which is just absolutely buck wild.
welcome to Aunties.
I
Yeah.
know. Nobody's entitled to know what your therapy entails.
Yeah.
No.
And if this is something that you do as a therapy, that's fine. Like, to you need to advocate for yourself and do what is best for you. And if this
Yeah.
is something that helps you heal and you have the consent of your writing partner. Oh, Ty.
Yeah. So Ty, we're
Oh,
gonna
Ty.
we're gonna do a whole episode before the year's out, I think, on aunties that goes into it. But just a quick definition, and we've done this definition before, very sorry for those of you that have seen some of our previous episodes that kind of touch around this. But but yeah, quick definition for now is aunties are people that go on the internet and harass fanfic writers, artists, role players, people that are in these kind of like niche subcultures online and police their art and tell them this ship is bad or that ship is bad. And like they'll have like pet ships that are like quote unquote okay ships, and they'll have ships they hate which are problematic ships, right? Yeah, exactly what Sasha said. They believe that shipping writing certain things means you support them offline. So, like a really good, obvious example, say an anime artist draws a bunch of lollies, like that's their style. The aunties would tell them that means they are in real life a pedophile, even though those things are not connected in that way at all, right? So they might say things like, "Oh, all furries are into bestiality." Not true,
Oh
obviously,
God.
but that's like
No,
that's like
fairies are
anti
just their
logic.
own level.
That's anti logic, right? Like that's anti logic.
Sorry.
So yeah, I hope
No,
that
that was.
helps.
I'm sorry. That was.
Did they never see Disney's Robin Hood?
I know, right? Like obviously,
Just
yeah.
because I have a crush on Simba in that one scene where he's like teenage years does
Just the
not mean I'm
one.
into bestiality.
But aunties will tell you it does.
But aunties, and they obviously know me better than I know myself. So,
Yes, of
um,
course they do.
So I
think
hope that helps. I
Kendra,
hope that helps as a
They're
working
so
definition for
pure.
now.
I think Kendra, you also said something that was like, you said that if this is your therapy, then there is nothing wrong with doing it. And I just want to expand on that. That if you are doing this for any reason, writing any problematic shit, there is nothing wrong with doing it.
Yeah.
Oh no,
Oh,
no,
thanks,
no. There's
Eliza. I'm
nothing
glad
wrong
you
with
agree.
it at all. Yes.
Thank you. I got blessed. I got
Yeah.
so cute.
Yeah. Okay. Do you want to go get some spaghetti and cheese?
I want some spaghetti
Okay,
and
let's go
cheese, Mom.
upstairs. Okay,
Oh,
come here. I'll make you some.
I just love small children so much. I can't handle them for more than 5 minutes, but I love them so much.
Mom, make me
Oh,
some spaghetti and cheese.
okay.
My
Come here.
ovaries are just like, have a shot.
If you never want to sleep again, and if you want your child to tell you God is coming for you, yes, do
I mean,
that.
I do want both of those things in my life, but not currently. I'm a little busy this year.
Well, good news. It takes about a year to bake.
Ah.
I think she's saying she's too busy even for the baking part.
That's fair.
Yeah.
It knocked me out for the year. I was out of commission.
Okay.
So don't. Not yet.
Hi, the small child would probably say hello to you too, but she's too busy with spaghetti.
Yeah, she's back upstairs.
All right.
No, if you're writing a problematic ship, as long as you have the consent of your partner, fine.
Yeah.
I mean, and should we move on to that? We're a little early, but that's okay.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like it's hard to like even define this stuff without clarifying that like it's okay. Because I don't want anyone to come on here and only listen to like half the stream and feel shamed. Like that would be like the worst case scenario for me, that somebody goes into this and feels like we're trying to shame them. Nobody should feel shame over fictional stuff that they're doing. But yeah, so yeah, we can move to that.
Well, it was just I was gonna let's talk about consent.
Yeah,
and how
sure.
your partner plays into this.
Yeah.
Ignore me. I'm flirting with Sasha in the chat.
Isn't that the life that we all want to live, though? Flirting with Sasha in the chat.
Yes.
That feels right.
Oh my gosh, y'all are crazy. Okay, so
Do you want me to flirt on stream? Because I can try to do that.
Kendra, we can go for it. Let's do it.
Oh my gosh.
Hey. Do you come here often? What's a nice guy?
Every
like
Saturday
you
from
on
noon to
stream
2.
like
Wow,
this?
Landon. Jinx. Yeah. Yeah, let's we can go ahead and say that. I have a little soapbox. I have a little soapbox about that. When it comes to role play, this is a little bit of a unique way of shipping as opposed to like drawing your ship or writing fanfic or even writing original fic or things like that, because it's very intimate, right? And I think trying to pretend like role play is not an intimate activity is just like, you're just like selling yourself short, right? Like you're not being realistic. Like if you think it's not, it is. And I think we have to be a little bit careful, because it can be challenging, I think, a lot of times, especially for newer role players to keep things very separate between themselves and their character. And even if you're very, very good at this, like things can still affect you very deeply that are happening to your character, that are happening to your ship partner's character, or whatever. And even if you kind of just deal with those feelings yourself, those feelings still happen. And so when it comes to writing things that are, yeah, character bleed, like character bleed happens even if you're very practiced at not doing character bleed. Like that's what the point I'm trying to make. And
Yeah,
I
it
think,
does.
yeah. So and because of that, when it comes to some of this problematic stuff, this is my method for it. I think that it's not a good idea to lead with your problematic stuff when you're very first getting to know a new roleplay partner. Like it probably is a good idea for your first role plays and stuff to be a little bit more vanilla. Because it's like once you do the problematic stuff, you're kind of like fast tracking that intimacy and that connection that you feel, and then it's gonna, like, for many reasons, you can end up feeling a lot more hurt, either if things don't work out or if things don't go the way that you necessarily want them to, or whatever the case may be, things don't go the way that you're wanting it to go. So I think it's important that when it comes to role play, to be a little bit picky. Be a little bit pickier when you're talking about, like, quote unquote problematic stuff versus topics that are a little bit more, on the vanilla side.
Yeah, I think also we have a mutual friend who fell into this trap of getting really, really close to someone really, really quickly and trusting them with stuff, and didn't know what that person was saying in other group chats.
Mm-hmm.
And what was happening outside of the bubble that they were in. And it felt like a very safe bubble. And it turned out that the bubble was not very safe.
Yeah.
And it happens all the time.
Yeah.
And frankly, it's happened to me in a very, very small scale, where, you move too fast, or you say something that doesn't want, or sorry to keep pulling examples, but we had someone who came into an RP, posted in we have a triggers and squicks fun little, I almost said squeaks, fun little channel that basically you post what you don't want to write.
Mm-hmm.
And
so that everybody knows, like, the point of that channel is so that it's clear. It's not that anything is off limits in my role plays. It's not really in that way, but it's so that other people don't come to you and be like, hey, you want to do this? I don't know, I'll pull in an example of something that gets posted in there, but people tend to not find super problematic. But so you don't go to somebody and be like, hey, do this miscarriage plot with me, when you, like, super don't want to touch that topic, period. It's
yeah,
just to
that's
help
when
with
I
that.
would bring out the big guns for that topic, because, like, no, that's not something I want to write.
Yeah,
which is
I'll
fine.
write
And
so many other things, but not
and
that.
if you write that in the squicks and triggers channel, then people know not to bring that to you.
Yeah, and they shouldn't.
Especially in a super dark RP where it's obvious that people are doing dark and twisted things, like typically in our RPs.
Mm-hmm.
And we had someone come in to that chat and basically say, oh, I know that you would never do this.
Yeah,
or you would never do anything this bad.
Like, they
or
posted.
I don't have to say anything that I know you guys would never do. This person has never met any of us.
No, they were brand new. They were brand new, and they were like, my triggers are non-con, but you guys would never do that. And it was like, have you met us?
And then fast forward a few months, when not with her characters or their characters, not with anyone involved there, but in other characters went through a non-con scene and they vanished.
Yep.
And it's because they did not want to consent to that, which is totally fine. But it happens, and there's also this assumption that you as an RP are never going to write anything problematic until you really get to know your partner. And it is good advice to kind of follow that assumption.
Mm-hmm.
And not to just, like, guns a-bling, being like, hi, I'm new to the group, who wants to write a miscarriage with me?
Mm-hmm.
Unless you so happen to stumble upon our group, in which case we'll be like,
someone probably will.
But also, let me get to know your character a little bit.
I'm new in town.
And
Oh,
like,
John Mulaney.
and I mean, I've definitely approached new partners. Like Naomi's a good example. I mean, I approached her with a with a BDSM plot right out the bat, and it happened to work out, right? But before I really understood like that, like it before that I really understood that I probably shouldn't have done that, and it took me being burned several times to understand that like that's not a good idea. Like that's not a good idea for like your first RP with somebody. You should try to build up to some of that stuff.
I feel like that with that situation was a little bit more unique though.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously not remembering what your indie blog had during that time, like really,
Mm-hmm.
but you had an indie blog that
Yes.
is out for public consumption that people can read. And while hypothetically no one is reading everything you are posting, people can. So
Yeah.
there is a little bit more clarity and out in the open and like kind of being like, hey, obviously I'm into BDSM and writing this kind of stuff if you
Mm-hmm.
have other partners you're writing with.
Mm-hmm.
And so like I feel like there's small differences because it's almost like you have a social media site for your RP already that people kind of may be able to get the drift of what you're into.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so that when you approach them, there's a little you can have a little less tact.
Yeah.
Whereas with like a closed group or someone answering an ad, you don't have that kind of freedom as much.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think Sasha's really kind of making a similar point in a different way, but I want to call this out.
I
The
love
reason,
this.
yeah, like the reason, part of the reason why you want to get to know somebody first and maybe not, go out guns a-blazing with your darkest stuff in the very beginning is because, like Sasha's saying, the way that somebody approaches a certain thing is going to change how you feel about it, right?
Yeah.
So you might want to get to know the person beforehand because even though you're both interested in topic A or whatever, how they write it and how they're interested in it may be a totally different thing than how you are, and that's going to change everything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That is extremely true.
Mm-hmm.
And also will change the vibe in which you're feeling
Mm-hmm.
like that too and the outcome and everything like that. So I
Yeah.
think that's an incredible point.
Yeah. Also, something
Uh,
I'm checking something on the stream. Okay. Sorry to get rid of the game for a second. I was just checking something. I didn't think the chat
Shame on you.
I didn't think the chat was working, but I think it actually is. Can somebody send a message in the chat, by the way? Like I know the chat's working on Twitch, but I'm not sure that it's showing on screen. Yeah, it's not showing on screen for some reason. I don't know why. I'm gonna try to.
I keep forgetting that you're drow on the chat,
Oh,
and
yeah.
I'm keep being like, we should shout this, and then I'm like, no, it's actually Kendra.
That's actually me.
That
This
was
is
an
back when I branded myself for D&D. Like, yes, we're going to start streaming our D&D game. No,
Ooh.
we didn't.
Oh,
Oh, you would have heard about
I'm
it.
sorry.
Yeah, no,
You would have heard about
you
it.
told us that was your plans, and then it never came to fruition, unfortunately.
There's a lot there that I will not get into.
Oh,
Just for respect of everybody. It's just very sad. I was deep in the feels for my drow yesterday.
It's okay, Sasha. We've been calling out all the good messages anyway. But yeah, if y'all ever notice that the chat's like not popping up on Twitch, like say something.
to be honest, didn't even notice.
Yeah, I didn't realize it either until I just looked over there to see it. But yeah, it wasn't. But that's okay. It's fixed now.
My computer has decided to hate Twitch, which means I can't watch the streams. I can only watch the VODs and then participate in the streams.
Oh my gosh.
So like right now it's a black. Oh, there we go. Now I can see the stream a little bit.
Yeah, I had to go fix the
I just
actual
have
chat
the
box.
chat up.
But
Okay, sorry about that.
I do
Anyway,
love
back to
Mage
the
Complex.
topic at hand.
Yes.
Communication, extremely important. But like we say that every time. Like you just need to communicate with your partner.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and you need
A
to,
little bit different than the way that you usually say it, though, in regards to this topic.
How do you mean? Can you expand on
I
that?
I feel like a lot of the things that you like, yeah, just talk, communicate, be open. This is, I think there's a little more trust involved in the communication process because of reasons like you went into with the mutual friends earlier and being put on blast. But
yeah,
you have to also feel that your partner trusts you. There has
Mm,
to be a certain level of being okay with being so vulnerable with the person
yeah.
and knowing that your partner feels comfortable telling you no.
Oh,
yeah.
that's a
I
good
mean,
point.
I think that also when you, unfortunately, because topics like this are so problematic and taboo, that they are changing points.
They can
And
be, yes.
they can't, they, I mean, and to an extent they are. I mean, I
Yeah.
think that, at least for me, because I look at it and I go, if I'm building up to wanting to RP with this person and write these plots, a no is going to change the relationship, not necessarily end it, but will change it because then I can't build up and want to play these plots. And a yes
Mm-hmm.
will as well. It'll
Mm-hmm.
change it, go in
Yes.
that direction and expand it. So it is a changing point. And you need to kind of recognize that when asking that you are putting how the relationship is, how you've been developing this relationship on the line.
Yeah, something
Uh,
else that I've definitely seen in role play circles is people will like agree to certain things. Like they'll say like, "Yeah, let's do this problematic ship or whatever." And they don't
then
mean
no.
it. They don't mean it.
Yeah.
And that is something that I find really challenging. Like you don't have to say yes to someone just because someone asked you. Like if it's
Oh,
really going to upset you, say no. Like you're not going
The
to get
whole
cool.
people pleasing
Yeah, like you're not
aspect
going to
there.
you're not going to get cool points by like, saying yes to something and then like doing it half-heartedly, or doing it and then getting upset about it, or like
yeah.
so that's definitely something I see
Well,
with problematic ships. Like people like they don't want to be like the one that says I'm actually uncomfortable with this.
The best thing that I ever did for one of my RP partner relationships was say no.
Yeah, sometimes you have
ooh,
to.
And
what is the
like
word?
I don't say no to a lot of stuff. But what this specific partner had wanted and the part that they had wanted my character to be, I just wasn't into it. Like, it wasn't that it made me uncomfortable. I was just like, yeah, that doesn't sound fun for me.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I said no. And they were like, oh my gosh, thank you.
Ty just
Thank
gave
you.
Ty just gave me like major flashbacks for a second. So back
Oh, yeah.
back in like chat room role plays, slave markets were like a whole thing. Like it was a whole thing. And there were people that would come into those and they would like, buy the slave character, right? And then immediately set them free. And it does kind of beg the
Negates the
question like,
entire
what
reason.
was the point of going into that chat room if that's not what you were looking for? Why didn't you pick one of the other chat rooms? I mean, I know what the answer is. The answer is because that was the most popular one. And so people would go in there even if they weren't interested in that type of role play because it was the most popular. But that being said, like that is a good question. That is a good legitimate question. I don't
Oh,
know. Do
no.
I want the flashbacks or do they just happen?
Egg hatchings.
Oh God. We were
Didn't
talking
didn't
about
we talk about this?
uh-huh, we just talked about that the other day. Oh my gosh.
I was gonna
Ah.
say, oh yeah, yeah. But no, it just you have to. I think knowing that your partner will say no brings a certain peace
Yes.
and a more comfort, and definitely in that case, uh, made it easier to ask for other things for the
Mm-hmm.
both of us.
Mm-hmm.
Because we knew, like, okay, this person respects me enough and respects their comfort enough to say no. So that
Yeah.
we're only writing things that we really want to write.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I
And the
think
whole
I think
point of
that's
this is to
fair.
have fun.
Yeah. I know I would rather get a no from somebody than get a yes that wasn't real, right? Cuz
Yes.
you're going to find out. Like you're going to find out. Humans, we're very empathetic, right? Even though online it's easier to fake a lot of that stuff, when you're role playing, you still eventually find out. Like you eventually find out that they weren't actually that into it. And one other thing I want to talk about here while we're talking about, giving yeses and nos to this type of stuff is when it comes to things that are problematic or potentially triggering, I think one thing to note is that often you don't know that something is going to be upsetting for you until you actually try to role play it or experience it, right? So there
Yeah.
are definitely situations, I'm sure, where people will say yes, and then partway through the role play, they realize their answer is actually no. And
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
well, for those situations, what I want to say, what I want to challenge people with, and I know a lot of role players are very passive people pleasers, so this might be a really big challenge, but what I think you should do is say no once you realize it. Like, it's okay to renege that consent later.
Yes.
There's nothing wrong with that.
Yes.
Consent is
This
consent is something that is continuously going.
Yeah.
You give consent every single in our
continuous enthusiastic.
yep.
Yes.
And
And
you
if
give
it's not continuous, if it's not enthusiastic, then no. Say no.
Yeah.
Please. For yourself and for your partner.
Yeah.
yep. And if you're not like, and just know that
Please
it can stop at any
say
time,
no.
and it should.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Kendra, you're cutting out a little bit. I don't know if there's something going on with your internet. Um, just FYI.
But yeah, and that every single time you hit A and every single time you reply, you're consenting again. Like
Mm-hmm.
that's the other thing too, is that there is no shame. And if you discover that it is too overwhelming or that you do not like it or you are feeling too emotional or too raw or too whatever, or too quick, then it's perfectly okay.
Mm-hmm.
And I also think it is extremely important to know that in moments like that, when you're feeling that high emotion, when you're feeling something, you need to not blame your partner for that. Because
Mm-hmm.
I think that happens a lot
Yes.
too. That you suddenly are in the situation where you realize that this is not a ship or a dynamic that you want to be writing out. And especially if your partner asked you to do this, it is then your partner's fault that you are here.
Mm-hmm.
Because that immediate emotional reaction, I think, is very common and psychologically trying to protect you. And you
Mm-hmm.
need to try to use your higher brain function and sit there and go, no, I agreed to this. This has nothing to do with my partner did not make me do this. I said yes, and now I'm saying no, and it's okay to say no.
Yeah. And it doesn't mean anything about them or about you or about any of that.
Yep. And you can, and I know sometimes it's hard to like move on from moments like that, but you totally can if you work hard at it and you want to. And just try to have communication about it too,
Yeah.
because most people, especially our peers, I have not met a single RPer, and maybe this is because I've met some great and played with some amazing RPers that would have been angry if in the middle of a scene I sat there and I was like, I actually can't do this. This thing is not working out for whatever reason, because I'm uncomfortable with the dynamic, because I'm not into it. I haven't met an RPer that would be like, oh my God, you're such a bitch for doing that.
Yeah, I haven't really either. Like what I have met though that can be kind of frustrating is a lot of times, they want to know why. And sometimes you're not quite ready to say
Yeah.
why. So I understand that like for a lot of people that's the actual realistic thing that could happen, that they don't want to they don't want to experience, right? Like they want to say things, they'll say things like, I'm not really into this anymore, and their partner's like, oh, why? Thinking that learning that why is going to help them feel okay with it, or learning that why is going to help them fix it in some way that you can make this work. So, if somebody does tell you that, I would personally try to resist asking and digging for more than what they're willing to give. If
Yeah.
somebody's like, oh, I'm just not that into it anymore, I think it's best to handle that with grace and say, like, oh, that's no problem. We can drop it. Do you want to talk about it? And if they say yes, then yeah, then you can go with that why and stuff. But if they say no, then I think what's better is to say, like, oh, well, if you'd like to do something else in the future, please hit me up, and let the ball be in their court to do that if they feel comfortable doing so.
Can I teach the listeners one of the most magical phrases in the world?
Sure.
I understand. Is there anything I can do?
Yeah.
It will help in your personal life, it will help in your professional life, and it will help in
Yeah.
your OC
Yeah.
life.
Yeah.
If you're
Yep.
willing to put in that thing, if you're willing to put in the effort of actually following through with doing something.
Yeah.
I understand. Is there anything I can do? Because that anything I can do means that you're willing to help out. Your understand means that, yes, I acknowledge what you just said. I'm not going to push. And you're willing to continue the relationship or the friendship or the whatever by trying to figure out how to help.
Mm-hmm. I think that's so much better than like the but why type of
100%.
question, because it doesn't put the other person on the spot if they don't want to be. Like that question, it feels like it's much safer to say like, no, there's really nothing you can do. And go from there, and it's fine and it's not a big deal. So yeah, I love
Yeah,
that. That's a great
and
phrase.
and how we have it, and obviously the power of what you're able to do in RP is a lot less than what you can do in your real life. But if
Mm-hmm.
you use that phrase in your real life, it's wonders. Like, even if it's so much better than I'm sorry. It's so much better than I'm sorry.
Mm-hmm.
I hate the phrase I'm sorry from I'm having a bad day. Someone saying I'm sorry. Don't be just be like, I understand. Is there anything I can do?
Yeah.
Just take that phrase and
It's a
run
good
with it.
one. It's a good one.
You're welcome. 12 years of therapy. That's what I've got for you.
You learned something.
Just that one thing.
Oh
And it
gosh.
took the 12 years.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, so yeah, I think that's all like really good stuff. That's all like really good stuff. Cuz that's the thing. That's the thing that I think makes people believe that like, oh, well, yeah, sure, this problematic ship stuff, like all of these things are okay for fanfic writers or for artists or things like that, but when it comes to roleplay, and it's like, no, that's not true. But there are caveats when it comes to roleplay, right? There are caveats because you're not doing it by itself. It is inherently like an intimate activity between you and another person. So there are other considerations you have to go through.
So, yeah, that's. Oh, someone said my name.
Yeah, a
Thanks,
solid
Sasha.
return on investment. Yeah, it is. This is a good one. I like that phrase.
Yeah, it's a magic phrase. That's all I got for you.
That's good.
I think that's kind of all we had to talk about.
Let me just look at my notes if there's anything else.
I mean, I wanted to go touch back onto what is actually problematic.
Oh yeah. Okay. So let's do that. What is okay, so we've talked about all these things and we've made it pretty clear that like role playing this stuff isn't actually problematic, and here's how you can do it in a way that's safe, and here's why you might want to do it or whatever. So okay, so then what actually is problematic?
Nothing. It's all fiction.
Oh my gosh. Yay!
I raise you.
These are
It's
all-
only problematic if you coerce somebody into role playing them with you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Otherwise, nothing.
Yeah.
They're characters. They can't. There's no one's being hurt.
Yeah. And I think that's what's so great. That's what's so great about fiction, is that we have that opportunity to explore those things in a safe way. Like, just because you would never do something in real life has nothing to do about whether it's okay to do in fiction.
Yeah.
Totally separate things.
So what you're saying then is that what you write isn't what you believe?
What?
Oh my goodness, you can do that?
Yeah.
No, everything
Wow.
is everything is a biography, Kendra. Write
Yeah,
only what you know.
the things that you're interested in writing when it comes to shipping has nothing to do with your own personal morals. It just doesn't. They're not connected in that way at all. So Ty has a comment. I think that it's the attitude around the thing that determines whether or not it's problematic. Just as dressing up something that could be problematic is totally fine. I'm looking at you, Twilight and Joker, Harley. I mean,
No,
yeah, I mean,
hold on. I have such a hot take on this
okay,
one.
okay,
First
go
of
for
all,
it, go
leave
for
my
it.
Joker and Harley alone. Second of all, the writers, the people who created Joker and Harley, I can't speak for Twilight, did nothing to cover up the fact that it's an abusive relationship. It's how everyone else decided to take it.
Hmm.
And that's a society problem. It is not the creator's problem.
Yeah.
I could sit there and also set the same thing with Twilight. Like Stephanie Meyer's creation of what she created is not problematic in itself. Her creating it isn't the problematic problem. The thing that made it problematic was society sat there and was like, that's true love.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But the fiction writing itself is not problematic.
Yeah.
Problematic doesn't exist because they are not real people.
Yeah, and I don't think it's a creator's job to stare at the camera and say, "Audience, this is bad. Don't do this in real life." Like,
It's not.
it's not. That's not the creator's job.
That's
That's the job of educators.
It's kind of the same thing when it comes to. I have a hot take about trigger warnings on a lot of things. There are some things that I think do deserve trigger warnings, but on a lot of things, sitting there and being like, well, this could be considered this and this and this and this bad and this is bad. It's not the job of the author.
It's not.
It's really not.
It's not.
I get to write what I want to write, and I'm sorry that if you think that it is healthy to idolize this relationship.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the rest of the world is not responsible for your emotional response. Absolutely. Like when it comes to trigger warnings, I think that's a courtesy. Now, that doesn't mean that I think trigger warnings shouldn't exist. I think they're a courtesy that are wonderful and that you should do. But at the same time, I don't think it's appropriate to freak out on someone because they didn't trigger warn appropriately. You know what I mean?
I think that
so yeah.
like, for an example, I think that it's amazing that Disney has, I literally just saw this article on Facebook, that Disney has added, before the beginning of some of their animated movies, have added that this is racially or culturally inappropriate. Example being Lady and the Tramp, the Siamese cats, and whole We Are Siamese song. It is incredibly racist.
Yeah.
And they have now put a notice on front of their production saying that we acknowledge that this is incredibly racist and hurtful, and we apologize for that. I don't think, because I just glanced at it, I don't think they took out the scene, but at least they're acknowledging it, which is great. It's also 50 years later. And
yeah. And for fanfic, and role play ads and things like that, I think the purpose that trigger warnings serve is allowing the reader to give informed consent to the experience they are about to have if they engage with your work.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So they're not surprised.
I think that it's different in role play.
Huge example that I have with the content advisory is, did you guys ever watch or hear about 13 Reasons Why?
Yes.
And the fact that it was marketed towards teenagers and marketed as this suicide story, this girl's suicide story, and then they showed the actual act against professional warning of killing herself and cutting herself.
Like they went out and got consultants to tell them how they should safely handle this, and the consultants told them, and then they said, "Fuck you guys."
And that is an example in which I feel that there needs to be. I personally feel that there needs to be content warning. However, it's their choice whether they do it or not. Like, as an artist, if they really wanted to like buckle down and be like, no, as an artist, I feel that I shouldn't have to do this, then they get to do that.
Yeah.
But give
I
the
don't think
audience a chance to consent.
Yeah.
That is very
and I also
important.
don't think it would be like business, but even then, like it's so much like complicated because as a creator, they are not responsible for how the audience reacts or what the audience reaction is or anything like that. However, I think the fault here was Netflix and how they marketed it. And Netflix being a company that should have known better than to market to a group and then do something that was so completely stupid. So if the creator and director and writer felt that this scene was integral to the program, then they, by all means, as the creator, get to keep it. And there is no problem with that. It is Netflix's responsibility as the company to do what is best for mass market.
Yeah, and I think it's, if you apply that to roleplay, then the way that we talk about it in roleplay is like, you know, even you can roleplay whatever you want, right? And you can say that you're looking for this type of roleplay or that type of roleplay, but you should, in your ad where people are actually reaching out to you, have that information so that people know if they want to engage with you or not, right?
Absolutely. And also, like, if your group is going to be like, it would be like us not saying that we're, you know, over 18 only dark villains group. If we were just like allowed everyone in and then also things were happening.
It's kind of like if you had like set up a coffee shop role play, right? And you know, nobody's going to go into that expecting like dark and angsty and things like that. So like if you have it, you got to kind of make it clear because no one's going to go in thinking that that's the case, right?
Yeah. I just think it's important to remember that as an artist, it is not your job to decide what is problematic and not problematic. You get to create whatever you want.
Yeah.
And it's not problematic because you created it and it's fictional.
Yeah. And I think that the only thing that you should really be worried about is thinking like, you know, do I want to do the nice thing and give a content warning for this because it might upset some people.
Yeah. And that in yourself is completely to your discretion.
Yeah.
However, I feel like you have to put on a different hat at that point. You're not the artist if you want people, mass media, to read it.
Yeah.
Then you do have to think about that.
Mm-hmm.
But creating it, especially in RP, where your audience is an audience for one, if you have their consent, then you creating it, there's nothing problematic about it.
Yeah. Yeah.
My hot take.
Yep.
Sorry to yell at your side.
No, you're good. And I know we talked about,
you weren't yelling.
And I know we talked about this a little bit earlier, but I just kind of want to go back to the idea of shame. A lot of people out there that will say, you know, this ship or that ship is problematic or things like that. What they're employing is a tactic of shame, and their goal is to get you to stop. And I don't think that's a good idea or a good goal or anything like that, because as you said, like at the beginning, anything could be taken as problematic, right? So as soon as you start to say like, this is bad, this is bad, this is bad, what you'll find, and that this happened on Tumblr, right? And it's happening on Twitter now, is that it escalates, right? Like at first, student-teacher relationships are bad, right? And then it's like, okay, well, let's say they're in college and so everyone's over 18, and like it escalates to that is also bad now. And then it escalates to, okay, well, you can't write anything with an age gap of more than 5 years, right? And then it escalates to you can't write things where there's a height difference because that's age gap coded. Or like you're laughing, but like I have watched this happen.
God.
I have watched this happen. So I don't
just
think
makes me so tired.
it does, right? So
what you just said just makes me feel 100 years old,
right?
It makes me feel so tired.
So when it comes to problematic shipping, I think it's always super important to keep in mind that like to not try to police people, right? When it comes to problematic shipping, if you don't like it, just click block.
Don't read it.
Yeah, don't read it. Click block. Like, don't engage with that person. Like, that's what you should be doing.
Don't read.
Exactly.
I understand that this is not AO3, that you can't, that RP communities don't have as much of a filter system. But if you're reading fan fiction on AO3, there's a wonderful like do not show me any of this trope block button.
Yeah, it's very
Yes.
easy.
Tags that it's just like, oh, you hate enemies to lovers because it's problematic as fuck. By the way, love it, but it is.
Yeah, well, I
then
mean,
just block it.
Yeah.
if you're using that filter, everything is. But again, it is fictional, and if you click on that, you are giving informed consent
Right.
because the author tagged it
Right.
as that.
Exactly. And when it comes to role play, like the function of that is in your ad, right? So if you do want to do some of that stuff, my advice is put it in your ad. And if you don't put it in your ad, now at the same token, if you don't put it in your ad, don't get mad when people have weird reactions to you because you come out of left field with something that has nothing to do with what was in your ad, right?
Yeah.
Or yeah, they didn't sign up for that.
If you're super sunshine and roses and everything like that, and then they click on the ad and then you're just like, actually, what about a BDSM ship?
Yeah, actually, I want to do some BDSM mind control stuff. And you're like, what?
With the side of vor.
Yeah, sure.
And
so,
and like people might have some weird reactions to you. I'm just saying.
Build up there. Just be like, well, how do you feel about mind control? Start there. BDSM later, and then we can get into the vor once you realize they're as freaky as you are.
Or just like put it in your ad. Just like put it in your ad. So that you don't attract people that are going to be freaked out about that stuff.
I mean, yeah.
Give informed consent.
Yeah.
And let your partners come to you with informed consent.
But is that really the slow burn way that you want to play this?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Never mind. Going back to my hole now.
Or like, of course, when it comes to your more problematic stuff, I think the best advice is to start off with your friends that you already know are okay with it. Right? Like if you start there, then you're good to go because you already understand things about each other at that deeper level.
All right.
I think I said earlier, like you're gonna have a hard time finding a new person to right off the bat roleplay.
Yeah.
A problematic ship.
You will.
It takes a lot of trust.
It does.
My DM's are open. That's not true at all. I don't have time, guys. Shall we start wrapping up?
Yeah, I think let's go ahead and start wrapping up.
I need an adult.
I am the adult.
Okay, I'll save my game and Landon, if you could post our article. Oh, you did it. Okay. Save and quit.
Professional or something.
Oh my gosh, I can't believe it. Who's that?
Wow.
Okay.
Not me.
All right. This for the desktop. Where is it going? Oh, it's going over here. I was like, I don't see the article.
Group. Oh, that's a great question, Ty.
Oh, I'm looking for the question. Where is it?
How is this reactionary shutdown shit coming from a younger age group who's essentially trying to bring the internet down to their level?
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Okay. When we get to the Aunties episode, I do want to talk a little bit about the origins of this. So that is a good question, Sasha. If you could hold it, because I do actually have an answer of where that's coming from. I've done some research on this, and that's
just a whole other topic.
But we are going to get into that in a future episode because there is a history there of where this all comes from. Okay, so here's
for it too.
Yeah, we'll get that scheduled so that for sure happens.
Sasha, prepare your DMs.
Yes.
Pick out dates now.
Yeah, pick out some dates. Pick out some dates before the end of the year. Okay, so this article, 56% of Americans say they're happier in autumn than any other season, and here's the top 20 reasons. Oh, so Landon, are you an autumn person? Is that your thing?
Kind of. So here's the thing. I am a winter-ish person. I am a October through January person.
Oh, okay.
Because I do like the first few months of like that crisp, cold winter air. But I also like the late fall feels. Mm-hmm. And so I thought that I should just sit there and be like, as in the words of Eliza Schlesinger, in order to be a girl, we had to answer that our favorite season was fall, which, if yours is not, then you need to get a better life. So I figured we could.
Winter.
Winter is wonderful.
Not at all. Definitely springtime. I'm sorry, guys. I'm going to remind you again. I'm a tropical creature. I can't do this cold stuff. Now, to be fair, the fall isn't that cold here. So
First we have almond joys, and now we have springtime, which is arguably the worst. I just can't.
No.
Yes.
Summer is the worst.
No.
Summer's pretty bad. The only good thing about summer is that my birthday happens.
No, spring is terrible.
Oh my gosh. Y'all are crazy.
Oh, you're just objectively wrong.
I'm not.
You are.
Maybe it's because Maine spring is actually just like this really hopeful, like maybe it'll be summer and then it snows 3 feet. And then like maybe it's starting to snows 3 feet. And that's what spring is. Oh, and then if it doesn't snow, then it's just rain for 3 straight months.
Well, you know what?
So
that sounds like a Maine problem.
I think it's a spring problem, honestly.
Anyway, sounds like a you problem.
Okay, anyway, we're going to learn about some reasons why fall is the best. So here's some reasons.
Fall is the best. And so I had a list, and I think we should just talk about how much we love all of these things.
Oh,
is Halloween number one?
No, it's actually not.
It could be. However, Halloween is exclusively American, so.
Oh, so it's not on here.
I mean,
Ty, you win for awfully rainy weather living in England. So
hold on. No, Ty. I will fight you because I get 3 feet of snow and rain. So like New England for the win. Anyway.
That's just England light.
So here's maybe where I'm not like why I'm not a fall person. This doesn't happen here. We don't have leaves changing color. They literally, we have evergreen trees that stay green the whole time.
Yeah.
Or the leaves just get brown and fall off. Like there is no like red, orange, yellow. Like that's not a thing here. We don't have those type of trees.
This is my official request that you move somewhere better.
I can't. The places this happens are cold, Landon. We have been over this.
Anyway.
I live by the Canadian border, just on the other side of the country than Landon, and we also do not get a lot of leaf change colors.
What is wrong with the rest of the country?
This is really just like a northeastern, like a New England thing, and then I think it happens on the east coast of Canada.
I'm renaming this article as to all the reasons why New England is great in the fall. Here we go.
Okay, well, but then it's got some things.
Change color, and it's really a magical moment because you walk out of your house one day and you're like, things start to be orange, and then you walk out of your house the next day and you're like, all I see is orange and red. It's kind of this really cool thing. It literally happens overnight.
I mean, it sounds cool. I've just never experienced it. But I can agree with some of these next things, like the chill in the air after how hot summer is. Having that first cold day where you can open the windows again is magical. Like this, I'm for this.
And it smells different and it feels different, and you get to like pull out a sweater. I know you guys aren't like as extreme there, but you get to pull out a sweater. It's wonderful.
Yeah, no, that's true.
Hot chocolate,
yes,
is amazing. And let me tell you, hot chocolate with peppermint schnapps is even better.
Yes.
I don't like the holidays.
You gotta get the little tiny miniature marshmallows.
Yes.
Yes.
Dehydrated.
And then you put them in there and they like fluff up, right? Oh, it's so good. So good.
Yeah.
Getting ready for the holidays. I'm not a holidays person. However, I'm going to pretend this says getting ready for Halloween since we're redoing the entire article anyway.
Oh, sure. Yeah. Then I'm for this. Like if it says getting ready for Halloween, I'm for it. I mean, I shared with you. It's gone now because I ate it, right? But this was, we got ready for Halloween, right?
Making homemade soup.
Oh, yes. Soups and stews.
Wonderful. And like also crock pot food, which I think goes in with stew and soup, which just being able to be like, oh, let me throw this in the crock pot at 6 a.m. and then come home to a prepared meal and it's delicious.
Oh my God, yes. Yes, absolutely.
Stinks.
Beginning to cook holiday food, it's fine. Any kind of comfort food is good.
Yes, I'm for this. Oh my gosh, I'm so for this.
Watching Halloween movies, I am watching Haunted Mansion with Eddie Murphy in my classroom during lunch on Fridays, and it's such a good movie.
Oh, so we started this thing where we're watching horror movies, one horror movie a night every single night until Halloween for October. And we've watched so many. We've watched so many good ones. So many good ones. Like some of my favorites that we've watched are Faculty. We watched The Faculty. That's one of my favorites. We watched Shaun of the Dead. I'm trying to remember. I'm not like the hugest horror movie fan. I'm really picky with my horror movies, so I can't remember exactly how many we have watched, but yeah, it's been a decent number. We've watched one every single night.
Night.
Well, not like
And you
night
still
night.
sleep?
No, not like night, like after dinner. But yes, I still sleep. I usually fall asleep during the movie, Kendra.
Child.
What's wrong with you?
They don't.
Oh,
They're not that. It's not. If it's like super scary, then I will usually skip it, and Levi and Jeff will watch by themselves. But yeah, I don't think the horror movies are usually that scary. They're usually just kind of, I don't like the gory
Nightmare Before
ones.
Christmas scares me.
Kendra.
okay, well that seems like a you problem.
Yeah, that's like a Kendra
That's
thing.
an
I'm sorry.
emotional fear reaction.
All right. Moving on.
Okay.
Wearing big sweaters. I also think cardigans need to count during this too because I like the button-up front ones.
I
Those are
also
nice.
and I get to pull out my pair of big socks. So that would be my version of this.
Oh, that's later on the list.
Oh, good.
We need to get
Oh, I see it.
parents, more than one pair of big
Sound.
socks.
No, I don't. I live in the South. I don't need more than one.
Listening to the sound of
They
rain
need to
on
be
my roof.
washed.
Oh dear Lord.
This one isn't fall here. Like this is summer. Like this is summer.
Oh, no, that's totally fall.
That is
Fall
very
is
fall
spring, but,
and
like,
spring.
It's a different kind of rain in the fall time.
Oh, we don't really get a lot of rain in the
It
fall.
is.
Okay, well that's
It is a different
again
type than the
your
spring.
state problem.
You know what?
This is not New England. Do you not remember that I've changed the title?
I've only been to New England like twice, okay? And it's only just to like go through airports and stuff. So like, you know what? I don't know any of this.
Lighting seasonal
Okay, clean it
candles.
up.
And
Yes.
in general, lighting candles.
Yes.
So I have discovered that I have a candle problem. I thought it was normal. It's not normal. Even for a witch.
How many days
Bought a
has it
candle.
been since you bought a candle?
How long has it been? I bought a candle this morning.
Okay. Yep. Mhm. That sounds right. That sounds right.
I have a collection of melted wax on the table. It's wonderful. I love
As
it
you
so
should. As you should.
Yes, you should have a collection of melted wax.
much.
Oh.
But seasonal candles are wonderful too because it just has that warm autumn smells and I love it.
You know what?
Yes.
I feel like all these are basically the same thing. I don't know really why. Like baking pies, having cinnamon apple food drinks, pumpkin pie, and pumpkin spice food drinks. Like this is all the same thing. These are all the same thing 4 times.
We just really like cinnamon smelling things.
Yes.
And we
some
need
people-
everything to be cinnamon smelling.
And some people don't like pumpkin.
I
know
don't
who,
understand that.
but
I've
some
never met
people don't
them.
like it.
Never met them. Don't know about it.
Uh-huh.
Hot apple cider, which is actually hot take better than hot cocoa.
You're right. You're right, and you should say it.
And you could put rum in it. See, I just like to make everything alcoholic. And it's so good. Carving pumpkins is so fun.
So I'm actually really bad at carving pumpkins, but I love looking at other people's beautifully carved pumpkins. So
They just smell so bad. when
they
you're in
do.
the
They smell really
process.
weird when you're carving them. But they're beautiful afterwards. So like, we're not like going into the office often enough right now for this to be a thing. But pumpkin carving contest was one of the October things my office used to do, and people had some really freaking creative ones. They were really amazing.
I think that they're really, really cool. They're some of my favorite. I'm not great at them because I like to be perfect at everything, and I'm not because who's naturally good at carving pumpkins. But I love seeing them.
Mhm.
Wearing chunky socks and boots, Karen. This is
Yes.
a chunky sock moment.
So
And go ahead.
I don't have them with me because Saturday is laundry day, but maybe remind me on Thursday stream and I'll show you guys what my chunky socks look like. Although you're usually busy on Thursday evenings, aren't you, Landon?
Yeah.
Yeah. Somebody remind me and I'll pull them out.
Okay. But I love boots. I got some new boots actually yesterday, and they're like little heel combat boots, and they're so cute, and I love them so much.
Oh,
I'm gonna be making a TikTok. Oh, this is off character. This is off topic. I'm making a TikTok of all the Harry Potter characters inspired outfits from my wardrobe. I don't know why. I don't have the time to do it, but I'm doing it anyway. And you can check out the boots in there.
well, you'll at least get it through a few then, right? If you have this goal, you'll do at least a few, right? That we'll be able to see.
Oh yes.
Okay.
100%.
Well, there we go.
Um,
Stepping on crunchy leaves.
Heck yeah.
This is fun. I agree.
Yeah.
It should be higher on the list. 28%, that's abysmal.
Yeah, it really is. And any sort of walking in autumn, because like it's so hot to walk during the summertime and it's so buggy. And now that it's autumn, like all you need is like a good hoodie or a sweater or jacket.
Yes.
And just, like walk for hours. It's wonderful.
Back when I was super into playing Pokemon Go, fall was the best Pokemon Go time. Like hands down, the best time to play, because you could just be out there for hours and you wouldn't get like all hot and bothered and like too thirsty or anything like that.
Today is Charmander Community Day.
It is, yeah. So if you didn't get your Black Charmander, that is today. I don't actually play the game actively, but I still learned that today through osmosis.
They did some updates, which have really helped.
Yeah. Yeah, since we're all stuck at home now, right? I'm sure they have.
Yeah. Team Rocket comes to you in a hot air balloon.
Oh,
basically.
good. Well, I mean, that's what I always wanted.
Right?
All right, wearing plaid/flannel. So I feel like,
here's the thing.
Can I say
This
hoodies
thing-
instead of this?
Yeah, I think that hoodies are totally included in this.
Okay.
And then for plaid and flannel, that's all year round for me. So there's nothing special here.
They're too hot. It's too hot most of the time.
Oh, you
And
can
then-
have, like, cotton buffalo print stuff.
What?
I've never. Is this like a West
the
Coast
buffalo
thing?
plaid?
No, I don't know what you're talking
Like-
about.
It's the specific type, the red and black checkered plaid.
Oh, okay.
I
That's what
might
it's
just
called.
know that because of the fabric experience.
Yeah, I didn't know.
But yeah,
I didn't know that's what it
it's
was called.
the buffalo plaid.
Okay.
You can have that on like a nice light cotton lawn.
Yeah, that's
Have
true.
a cute little summer dress that is plaid.
That's true. That's true. Plaid can be all year round. But I do feel like
Plaid
it's
can be.
particularly, it lends itself particularly to fall.
It does.
See, I'm from Maine, so argue.
Yeah.
I mean, I lived in Portland. It was a year-round thing.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, you mean the second Portland?
Mm-hmm.
It was
No,
very-
the real one.
No, it's the second one. God damn it!
Fight.
Well, let's do it. Let's go. I'll get my birds and
Okay.
Put a bird on it.
Craft brew. Let's go.
Again, slightly off topic
Oh my
about
gosh.
the Portland.
I love that show, Portlandia. I love that show. Put a bird on it.
10 minutes.
Slightly off topic about Portland is that my favorite thing is to be like in other states than Maine, including New Hampshire, which borders Maine. People will be like, "Oh, where are you from?" And I'm like, "Portland," and they will always pause and look at me and go, "Oregon?" And I'll be like, "It's literally 30 minutes away." Portland, Maine.
Oregon's the one that matters.
No one knows
No!
about it. No one knows about it, Landon.
Damn
It's the
it,
cool one.
I can't with you people. Anyway, the last one is the same thing as the middle four.
Oh yeah,
So,
baking
like,
pumpkin bread. This is the same thing as all of these up here. It's really all about the cinnamon. Like that's the point. When it comes to the food, it's really all about the cinnamon.
Cinnamon and clove.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Mm.
100%.
Little
That's what
clove bits and
that's
the
what I
orange
got
peel.
for you.
So
Yes.
good.
So good. Okay.
Okay.
That was cute. That was a cute little article. Text message.
Yeah, it's after 2:00. All my notifications have turned on.
Oh. Well, we're wrapping up anyway. Okay. Let's do our little ending bit and chill. So, Kendra, since you're the guest this time, why don't you go first? Where can everybody find you?
Everybody can find me in the cafe as who am I right now? Blossom Miss,
Oh, yes.
or on Twitter at Drowfields.
Absolutely. And y'all should join the Discord if you are interested in potentially being a guest in the future. then definitely make sure you're in the Discord, because that's most of the time how we kind of figure out who's going to be a guest on the show when we have them.
Yes.
Yeah. So then
Also,
Landon,
I'm hilarious in there, so you should definitely come and just fluff my ego a little bit.
it's
Oh
true.
my god, thank you.
All right, Landon, where can they find you?
I've opened my Instagram to the public, so now you guys can actually find me at Land in Maine.
Okay.
Not that everyone's rushing to do that, but yeah, you can find me on Instagram at Land in Maine. You can find me the same handle on Twitter, but really it's just a stan account from Karen.
Mm-hmm.
You can find me on Discord, and you can also find me in the woods late at night. If you shout my name really loud, I'll probably just show up.
Do we have to say it 3 times? Is it like a Beetlejuice thing?
I am not Beetlejuice. God damn it, Karen. You just have to shout it really loud.
Okay, I'll try it. I'll try it next time. Okay, so then I'll do my thing. Of course, we have this show on Twitch every Saturday from around noon to 2. If you enjoyed it, then please follow down below. If you're watching the VODs on YouTube, please still come to the Twitch and follow, because there's no crazy algorithm here that's going to punish me for having followers that don't actually watch. So everybody should follow. The other place that you can find me on Twitch is I do a Thursday evening stream that usually starts around 6:30. That's a little bit more variable, and that's called Artistic License. That's my stream that it's kind of whatever I want. So there's not, you can expect all kinds of crazy things on that stream. Sometimes I play a game. Sometimes I get a tarot reading.
And all your deep dark secrets are exposed.
It's true. That happened. We went through my haunted house on tarot and saw what was haunting me. And if you're interested in that, VODs are always on my YouTube channel. And the other thing that I want to say on that is that during last Thursday's stream, if you watch or skip to after the tarot reading, you'll see an explanation of all of the different affiliate things that are turned on my Twitch channel now since I got affiliate. So if you're interested in seeing some of that stuff, then there's a segment in that stream where I explain it. And because I'm affiliate, you can now subscribe if you want to. So you're welcome to do that. All of that is all down below. The other main place that you can find me is on my YouTube channel. That's where I have my main show, which is Spare Room, that posts every Wednesday at 2 p.m. That's my scripted content, and it's always about some kind of role play topic, whether it's, writing advice or advice for moderators or advice for like the social aspect of role play, stuff like that. But it's shorter because it's more scripted. And then the other place that I actually have, original content, I guess you could say, is my Twitter. So if you're interested, my Twitter is It's Karen Terry. You can follow me there. It's mostly promotional for my other stuff, but that is also where my hot takes go. So if you're interested, then follow my Twitter. And that's it. That's all the places that you can find me.
Twitter is where we find out how we want to cancel you. Haven't quite decided yet.
Twitter is where I first revealed my Almond Joy interest, and Kendra was appalled. Appalled.
Yeah. Yep.
But I stand by it. Okay, I stand by my hot takes. Unless I delete them, but most of the time I don't.
The Almond Joys are what's going to get you canceled.
Well,
honestly,
come for me. Come for me, haters. I'm here. I'm ready for you.
I'm personally starting a a Discord to cancel you, Karen. Simply for the Almond Joy problem.
Please do. I need the attention. So,
Okay.
Let's do
Sasha,
that.
will you join me,
Let's
please?
get me some hate watchers. Let's get me some hate watchers, y'all. Let's do it. I'm just
All of
kidding.
the
I'm just kidding. If you're hate watching me, please find something better to do with your life. That's really sad.
No, get their money. Stop it.
I get like pennies.
Comments on your
Okay.
next video are going to be.
Pennies.
Did you know that she likes Almond Joys?
Uh,
Did you know the
Like, yeah.
scandal?
Okay. Anyway, we're done. We're done for today. That's it. That's the stream, y'all.
Awesome.
So make it a great day. All that stuff. I love you guys. Thank you so much. Bye. Bye.
Bye.
See you later.